right, guys. Who knows what this animal is? Any adults know? All right, guys. This is a koala monkey. Okay, I'm going to tell you now, all right? Listening. All right, guys. This is a koala monkey. You guys say that word, koala. Or you can just say Cody. This guy. All right, this guy likes to live in trees. He can run up a tree as fast as he can run across the ground because his feet are really, he has really sharp claws. Look at the big old claws on this guy. That's very huge. So this guy can run up a tree as fast as he runs down across the ground. He can run down a tree as fast as he runs up. So guess what? His feet can go backwards like this, and he can go right down the tree. This guy was raised on a bottle in the living room, but he's not in the living room anymore because guess what? He likes to get everything out of the cabinet. So somebody suggested this is a raccoon. He is related to a raccoon. This is basically a South American raccoon. So guys, I know this is kindergarten, but do we know the difference between a mammal and a reptile and a bird? Do we know that? What do you guys think this is, a mammal or a reptile or a bird? And you can tell because mammals all have some kind of hair. And birds, what do birds have? Feathers. What do reptiles have? They have either scales or a shell, right? So this guy is a mammal. And I'm getting ready to show you guys another mammal.
Cusco ready for me? Somebody in there got a daiquiri.
So with the groups, obviously, wherever your kid goes, go with your kid. Wherever the group goes. And with the, don't put your hands through bars. We have way more problems with adults respecting the rules than we do with kids. So if we model good behavior, adults out there. All right, what animal is this coming, guys? What kind of ferret this is? This is a cockatoo. His name is Zachary. You want to talk to your kid, Zachary? Zachary. He talks, but he doesn't like me. He likes Miss Donna. All right, so is this a mammal or a reptile or a bird? Feathers, right? Yeah. He looks like he's a little chilly out here, and you know what, he's shaking like this because he doesn't like me. He likes my wife. No joke. All right. So who knows how old a cockatoo can live? You got any guesses? Infinite? Nothing is infinite. Exactly. This guy can live about 50 years old. These guys are a kind of, I'm going to take a minute.
What's the name of this damn town? Anyway, they got all kind of exotic birds you can rent. It's Ocoee Riverside Farm. They got covered wagons on the river that you can rent. They got cabins up here. They got all kind of birds. All kinds of shit. I've never seen it. But Maverick took his field trip. And he was at school today, so I had a field trip.
Look where this animal is. This llama's name is Cusco. Today you're going to see llamas and alpacas and camels. So this one is a llama. Some of them over there are an alpaca. Who knows the difference between a llama and an alpaca? I ask you every time because you're raising your hand and that's great. Who else has an idea? Go ahead. Go ahead. Difference between a llama and an alpaca. Anybody? Yeah, llamas are big and alpacas are little. They're baby llamas. They're only 1 year old. That's why they're little. And that next one I'm walking toward us, it's all the way brown. That's an alpaca. So the difference between a llama and an alpaca, a llama has great big banana-shaped ears like this. An alpaca has little small straight ears like that. And a llama has not very much hair on their head and on their face. And the alpaca has a whole lot of hair on his head and on his face. And llamas are way, way bigger than alpacas are. Guess what? If it has little Mickey Mouse here. So that is the biggest one. It's a camel. Camel has little Mickey Mouse ears like that. All right. We are ready to split up into groups. So, you ready, Katie? Okay. Say what? Oh, sure. I told the group so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to go 1, 2, 3. So then you go this direction. Yep. All right.
Yes.
My dog.
Go ahead and get 2 pony saddles.
warm room. We've got to keep it warm in here because all the sloths have to have a hot and humid environment. That is baby Chloe. She is already woken up and is ready for somebody to come pick her up. Flash is still coming down this morning. So Flash is our oldest sloth, and he is 7 years old. He is sleeping out there in his hammock right now.
How long have they lived to be?
So in captivity, go ahead, you walk in and see him in there. In captivity, the oldest sloth that we know of lived to be 54 years old. So their metabolisms and everything are so extremely slow that it makes that possible for them. Now in the wild, we expect, now typically in captivity it's around 30. It's not typical that they live to be 50.
Right,
It's just the oldest one. Yeah. But in the wild, we expect it to be about half that of what it is in captivity, so maybe around 15, because usually in captivity it's around 30. Because in the wild, I think we're on a live stream right now. Let me see. Yeah. I'll just point this out here. In the wild, they're going to have a lot of other animals that could potentially try to eat a sloth. They have essentially no defense mechanism.
Right.
And so basically anything else in the rainforest that has teeth and eats meat could potentially eat a sloth. And so that's why it's, so that's why it's so much dramatically decreased.
Has your phone gone through a few droughts?
Yeah, yes, it definitely has. Right now we're live on TikTok and YouTube, I think that is. I'm not sure what it is, but we just kind of leave that in here. Kevin sets that up just so people can get an idea about how our encounters go.
Oh, look at that little baby.
She is extremely ready to come out. So Chloe is 4 months old. She is our youngest sloth that we have. We've only had her for about 2.5 weeks, closer to 3 weeks now. But she is still going through the ambassador protocol. So that means that naturally sloths are very solitary animals and are not going to be seeking out human interaction. That's something that's, has to be conditioned for them in captivity. And she is already, starting at about a week old is when the conditioning program started for her. So she is already very conditioned to enjoy being around people and having human interaction. And so she's already trying to climb up it. She is still holding on to this stuffed animal during her encounters, and so that's how we'll interact with her. And we'll go ahead and get her out first. Look at this towel. So she'll hold on to pictures.
Yeah, I'm allowed to take the pictures?
Yes, yeah, you can take all the pictures and videos if you guys want to. And get her situated here, get up onto her.
And how would you say she was?
She's 4 months old.
4 months.
Yeah. And she is a two-toed Linnaeus sloth. All of the sloths that we have here are two-toed Linnaeus. Hey baby, are you looking for food this morning? Well, whoever wants to hold her can sit in the blue chair right there.
She's the sloth.
Yeah.
I like her. She's like all of us.
I'll turn her this way, that way you can sit there and kind of take some good pictures and everything. So when we're interacting with a sloth, we just have to keep in mind that their eyesight is extremely poor. And while she enjoys this type of interaction, sudden movements can startle her. So we try to have all our movements be really slow. And when we're petting her, we want to pet just starting at the middle of her shoulders, down her back like this. They're a lot like puppies. They like to kind of mouth and teeth kind of on things. But they have a lot more teeth and a lot sharper teeth than puppies do. And they don't necessarily, since their eyesight is so poor, we bring the food right up to their mouths. And so anything that's coming up to their mouth like that could potentially be food for them. They just can't tell. So a lot of times they'll open their mouths up. So we just try to keep away our hands from the front of their face. And she may try to climb up on you like this. She's like in the middle of the transition stage from being on the stuffed animal to climbing up onto us. So we'll just kind of have to see in the 3 hours that we have how she does. So I'll set her into your lap here. What you smell, baby? Pictures.
Just like picture or here's mine.
Get her breakfast here.
They're so soft.
Yes, they're a lot softer than a lot of people think they will be, because in the wild,
Yeah,
they're definitely not super soft.
Oh,
They're really
really?
coarse. Yeah, they've got a lot of moss and algae and everything like that growing on their they use that not only for camouflage, but it's also a food source for a very specific type of moth that will live on their back that we'll get more into here in just a little bit. But let's see what they do.
Right, blurry.
So Chloe is an extremely slow eater, and it will probably take her 2 hours to eat this entire
Really?
Yeah, so we're going to start out now and see if she is hungry. And so when you feed her, you kind of have to like slide it up underneath her chin there, and then you just kind of hold it there, or if you may just rest there, whatever's going to be most comfortable for you. There you go.
Hungry. See, to feed, obviously rice and whatnot,
Yes.
but what do they eat in the wild? Same sort of stuff?
So
I know
in
you
the
said-
wild, they're going to have very different diets. So in the wild, sloths are going to be eating about 95% leaf material.
Oh, okay.
And in captivity, we can't keep it exactly 95
Right.
because, in the wild, they're going to be eating the sarcopia leaves that grow in the sarcopia trees.
Okay.
And those don't grow in North America. And so there's no kind of tree that exactly replicates the same kind of nutrients that are in the sarcopia leaves.
Right.
So we have to change up their diets quite a bit. Now the two-toed sloths do well with a varied diet. We can feed them a variety of different things like zucchini and squash and sweet potato, that mixture there, different kind of leaves like spinach, kale, and romaine lettuce, and all different things like that. But the three-toed sloth really cannot have their diets vary that much. They really need the leaves of the sarcopia trees. So you don't really see a whole lot of three-toed sloths in captivity, at least in North America.
Gotcha.
It just doesn't work out that well for them. Now there is one in Texas, that's in a zoo in Texas, that somebody was telling me the other day about. There's a three-toed sloth, and I was like, are you sure? Are you completely positive that it was three-toed? Because sometimes it can be kind of confusing because Chloe here is a two-toed sloth, but on the back she actually has three. So all sloths will have 3 claws on the back, and it's the front where she'll differ. So you can see up there she's only got 2.
Right.
So I was explaining that to her. I was like, are you completely sure? She was like, no, I swear it had 3 on the back and 3 on the front. I was like, okay. So I looked it up, and there is a three-toed sloth that they have had there for like 15 years. I'm not sure how long they're going to be able to keep it there because all of the research that I have read and done on my own shows that they don't live that long in captivity. They don't have those sarcopia leaves. So maybe they're importing those leaves. I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
I know it's extremely expensive to have those leaves imported because you have to get a shipment in like every 4
Right,
or
it's
5
fresh
days.
and everything, yeah.
So
Huh.
they're doing something right though, because
Yeah.
they've had it there for a while. I'm not exactly sure how old it is, if it's about 15 or if it's older than that, but it's worked out well for them so far. So that may be a change that if they are feeding it something different than the sarcopia leaves, maybe kind of a change that something we may be able to do in the future for a lot of different people.
Right.
But we'll just have to see. She cracks me up when she tries to lick her claws like that.
Trying to keep clean.
That rice gets stuck to the roof of her mouth there.
Oh, I was just trying to get it off there.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
on
you
YouTube.
should look on, it's on TikTok and I think YouTube. Yeah. YouTube or Facebook one. So where are you guys from?
Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you come basically just for this or? other
Pretty much.
places?
Yeah.
It's for my 30th birthday on
Okay.
the 23rd. So we're like, we'll do this for you, and then all of a sudden we just turned this into our honeymoon process. We've never had one yet.
Oh,
So
yeah. How long you guys been married?
5 years going on 6.
Yeah. Good to get a little getaway.
Oh yeah, it's been nice because we got construction right now in our house, so it's like
Yeah, it's been real nice.
Yeah.
good to get away.
Yeah.
Been living up in the guest room.
No, wow. She's eating pretty quick this
Yeah,
morning.
she's
She must be
doing
pretty hungry.
hungry, yeah.
Usually, I mean, Sloth, they will test your patience,
Really?
especially Chloe and Flash, because Flash in the morning, Flash is he was raised totally different than Chloe and Zoe and Dash, and you'll get to meet all of them this morning. And you'll see the personality differences between
Really?
them too. And Flash, he's not an ambassador sloth like the other 3 are. So he was raised much more like a traditional sloth.
Oh, okay.
He was born and raised in captivity and around people his
Right.
whole life, but never had that hands-on.
Interaction.
Yeah. And so he comes down, the most interaction that he will do is in the morning, he'll hook onto the door frame right there, and then hook onto this branch out here in the kitchen, and then come and hang out with us for about an hour, and eat his breakfast and everything, and he'll allow a few pets real slow down his
Right.
back, but that's about it. So if we were to ever try to scoop him down off that branch and hold him, that would be an extremely stressful situation
Right.
for him to be in, and it would
Right.
probably damage a lot of the trust that we've built so far.
Yeah, you don't want
Um, So it really, when we got Flash about 3.5 years ago, it took really the first 2 years of having him to even get him to the point where he would consider coming down and being close to
Really?
someone being in his enclosure. Yeah, so his encounters have been long in the making.
Right,
It's been a very slow process. And in the mornings, it's pretty routine for him that as soon as I get here at 9 o'clock, I'll open up his door and I'll go in there, talk to him for a little bit, and come back out and start chopping up breakfast. This morning's a little bit different because the sloth keeper encounter is set up differently. And so I don't do all of the normal things that I do first thing in the morning.
Right.
And so sometimes that throws him off a little bit. And even just the smallest little tweak in their schedule is enough to kind of throw him off and be like, I don't know about it. So it may be, maybe an hour or two before he comes down.
Right.
We've got 3. But, so yeah, he definitely, if anything's thrown off in the morning for his schedule, if I have like a 10 o'clock encounter where it's only a 30-minute encounter with him and he's got to be down by 10 o'clock, it's
Right.
and there's no rushing a sloth.
Right.
So it's all done in his timing. And we don't ever force any of the animals, not just the sloths,
Right.
to do anything that they don't want to do.
Right.
And so sometimes if Flash just doesn't feel like coming down at 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's totally up to him, and we just switch over and we'll use Dash. Most of the time I'll just hold Dash and they'll get to feed and pet
Right.
and things like
Right.
that.
You can tell y'all take care of the animals,
Yeah.
because I've been to other farms and stuff where they're either overweight or this, or they're not groomed properly. Every animal you have looks super healthy and nice. Okay.
And
I did always wonder about the sloth, how they protect themselves, essentially they can't.
they really don't
Because they move so slow and
Yeah.
everything.
They essentially don't have any defense mechanism. And I talked about earlier how
That's kind of
sharp their
sad,
teeth are.
man.
Yeah. And it doesn't even make sense for sloths to even be alive anymore because
Right.
of how slow they are and how they have no defense like
Right.
that. But we still have them around.
Yeah.
So they have defied all odds.
Maybe because they're up in, I would assume, trees most of the
Yes,
time, right?
yes.
Just hiding. And
They will stay in the trees pretty much. They will stay up there as long as they can unless they have to go to a different tree if they're like losing the leaves in that tree that they can eat.
Right.
Because it's not just any of the leaves that they can eat. They can really only eat the fresh, tiny little baby leaves that are just starting to
Really?
grow. Yeah. The Ocoee trees will build up a toxin in their leaves over time. And so they can't eat the older leaves. And plus they have a lot more cellulose in it. It's a lot more difficult for them to break down. And so if they've ate pretty much all the little small leaves off that tree and they're forced to go to a different tree, then they'll use the ground to crawl if they need to. But crawling for a sloth is the absolute slowest form of transportation for them. Because they're designed to be an upside down animal. When they're babies, it's a little bit different because they'll stay on the chest of the mother. The mother will be hanging upside down and the baby will be on the chest like that. So she's still acclimated to that. But the most natural position for them is going to be hanging upside down. And so when they're flipped, when they're on the ground crawling, their claws are not built
Yeah,
for
so they're
that.
kind of like,
and so their claws are just in an awkward angle. And even their eyesight, some scientists speculate that looking upside down is their way of seeing right side up.
Really?
So if they're what we would
So it's
consider
inverted,
exactly.
yeah. No kidding. Now, is their eyesight always poor?
Always. Well, it gets a little bit better at night. It is kind of like, I know we have an influx of flies in here recently, and they all like to swarm right to wherever the rice is at. But yeah, at night, they really do see a little bit better at night. It's kind of like night goggle vision, and so looking through night goggles in the middle of the day, you're really not going to be able to see much.
Right.
And so that's kind of how it is for them. But their eyes, they have a condition that's called rod monochromacy, and that means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. So the cone cells are what's responsible for seeing color, whereas the rod cells pick up motion. So they only have the rod cells in their eyes, so they really only pick up motion well. Everything else is basically just blobs and shapes. They are completely colorblind, so it's just black and white that they see. And it's really just, shapes and shadows that they're seeing.
You're right. Based on everything you're saying, like, you wouldn't think they'd survive.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for them
They
to,
do.
but,
So how often do you gotta feed them? I would say baby probably a lot.
yeah, they're snackers, especially Chloe. She eats about 3 to 4 times a day.
Okay.
But of course, they're all small meals, and it just kind of depends on how quickly she eats. If she's eating really slowly and she just gets tired and doesn't finish her meal in the morning, then I'll do 4 times. It just kind of depends on her schedule.
I noticed that she's closing her eyes.
Are you the main person that takes care of the sloth, or do you guys rotate through? Or?
So I do all of the sloth encounters,
Okay.
and I'm the full-time sloth keeper, so I'm always down here with them.
Okay.
But then at night, Chloe and Dash both go back up to the main house and they stay in the owner's bedroom, so they care for them at night.
Oh,
Because
okay.
when they're little babies, you know,
Right.
Chloe, we weighed her yesterday, she's 1.7 pounds. So she's really small and she's still trying to learn how to climb.
Yeah.
So for the most part, that little basket that she was in is pretty much where she stays. You know,
Okay.
she doesn't really climb around that much.
Right.
You can see she was kind of she's starting to venture out a little bit more and get a little more exploratory. But up until this point, she's pretty much just stayed stationary. And so, but they need that transition from when they start to, you know, climb a little bit more. That's a really unstable, you know, thing for them. They're still learning how to do that.
Right.
And they weren't raised in the wild. And so it's, in the wild, the babies would start taking slow trips away from mom, start to climb a little bit, then go back to mom. And the weaning is kind of a slower process.
Right.
And captivity is a little bit different. She's kind of
Can you see
her mouth, yeah.
Like a big toothpick with her.
No, we hadn't. I just yesterday finally saw it go to the bathroom, you know, who's there as a boy. And, so.
Cool little animals.
Marco's probably at the top of the list.
So much. No. You get some flock.
It takes him 6 years to reach 5.
I can't.
Oh my lord.
We're doing the camel ride. When are we doing that?
Tomorrow.
Okay. How long are you guys staying for?
The whole
Till
week.
Friday.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It's funny, we woke up this morning
To the donkey.
to the donkey and we all looked at each other
Yeah.
and laughed because we were like,
It's funny is when I was a kid, my mom and dad bought a bunch of miniature horses, and there was a baby donkey around the house, and I was like 12 or something. And I really wanted them, you know, and I'd worked low jobs and stuff, so they're like, you buy them, you have to buy them. So $500, I bought them and had them for years until we moved back into town. I could sell them. But it was pretty cool to see them because they're really cool animals, you know.
I don't know if you guys have been able to, how long have you been here?
just yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, 2 days ago, we had our newest addition born on the farm, and that's our baby zebra.
Yeah, we have
So,
Yeah, we have seen
she's still back in the back paddock right
Okay.
now. But when you guys go do your camel ride tomorrow, you'll be able to see her. She'll
Oh,
be
okay.
right there.
Cool.
Still trying to pick out a name for him. I like Outlaw, because the little strap.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, yeah. Yeah, it's a good one.
I think that there's been talk about Zeke or Ezekiel, and they just call him Zeke.
Okay.
But we'll have to see.
Now, you guys don't get the harsh winters here, right? So
Not
you pretty
really.
much get to be out all the time.
Yeah.
That's good.
Except the sloths. The sloths
Right,
are the
yeah.
exception for that. So we only open up their outdoor enclosures when it's above 75 degrees.
Okay.
And when it starts to get back cooler, like right now is kind of an iffy stage where I've got to always check the
Right.
temperature and everything in the
Right.
forecast before I open up those enclosures. Because sometimes Flash will go out there and he puts himself up to the very tippy top. It starts to get cooler. You got to really coax him to come
Come
back
down.
in, you know. And like I said, we don't force them into anything they don't want to do.
Right.
But when it's for their
Right,
own good,
yes,
you got
you
to
have
coax
to.
them,
Right.
yeah, to come back in.
Like today it's cooler in the morning, but it's supposed to be like 80 or something.
Yeah, so it's usually, you know, I've been opening those doors up right at about 12 to 1 here in the past week or so.
Mm.
And then close them in the evening.
Yeah, we're up in Michigan, it's already getting cold and we're like,
Yeah.
we get to still have a little
Starting to
bit of
get
summer.
50s and early 60s,
Yeah.
but it's going to start going back. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got much longer until the real cold sets in.
You getting tired?
Like shit halfway through his meal.
It's
Her meal.
hard. It takes a lot of work. And sloths have to be slow animals, and they only have, you know, slow or low energy reserves because they really, you know, in the wild they're eating 95% leaf material,
Right.
and leaves don't have a whole lot of calories in it. It takes
Yeah.
calories to make energy. But in captivity, they're a little bit faster than they would be in the wild, and have a little bit more energy reserves than they would naturally, because they get fed higher quality diets. Of course, they're not going to be exposed to rice and sweet potatoes and dog food like the
Right.
rainforest.
Right.
So they do pretty well on that, and that's what the breeder will raise them on exclusively until they come to us. And so both Chloe, Zoe, and Dash all came from the same breeding facility. And they are completely unrelated, which tells you a lot about his facility. He has a lot of sloths. I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but he's been doing it for over 35 years, and it's absolutely, I mean, he's wonderful at what he does. Very passionate about his program. He raises ambassador sloths like this, where they're comfortable with being held. A lot of the other encounters that you can, go to do are not encounters like this where you get to sit and hold and interact with it one-on-one.
It's funny you say that because I took her to, we didn't even know about it, but there was a little
Yep.
smaller zoo, like almost like a family zoo kind of thing. And they had sloth encounters, and like we never know what kind of place you could actually go do this.
Yeah.
So we went and paid to do that.
Yeah.
And really cool experience, but you couldn't touch them or hold them or anything, and that's probably
You could
why.
feed them with
Yeah.
a stick. And
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
feed them with the stick,
Exactly.
fruit, or whatever.
Yeah, and it depends on the degree of, I don't like the word use the word domestication, but how many generations they've been removed from the rainforest.
Right.
The sloths that we have that came from that breeder are at least 6 generations removed.
Okay.
Flash is not that removed from the rainforest.
Right.
He came from a different, that wasp has been in there for like 2 days. I don't know how it got in there or why it's still alive.
And they find their way.
It looks like a little mud dog or something. I don't think those sting, really.
I don't know. It'll let you know.
But so yeah, Flash. I mean, he does really well. He's comfortable being pet and everything like that. But a lot of the sloths are not comfortable with being pet, and they'll hiss at you if you
Really?
get close enough to them. Yeah, and so they can make little, they'll make little vocalizations
I've never heard them
like
do
that.
that.
Yeah, if they're startled by something or they're
Right.
stressed, that's what they'll do. You can hear a little hiss.
That's probably their only defensive thing.
Yeah.
I'm scary.
Yeah, and they'll fluff up real big.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they can fluff up. They make all their hair stand on edge.
Really?
Makes them look a lot bigger. But, they can use little scare
Right.
techniques like that.
Hope this works.
Yeah. And I have only ever heard Flash hiss once, and that was completely my fault. He was hanging on this branch right here. He'll do a lot of times is he'll let go with his front claws and just be holding on by his back and extend all the way down where he's, hanging pretty far down. He's
Wow.
like 15 pounds, so he's a pretty big sloth.
Right.
And I was bent over. I had just put, I think it was Zoe, into somebody's lap that was sitting right there. And when I went to stand back up, I didn't know he had lowered down, and I kind of knocked into it. And so in my ear, I heard a little, and then he kind of fluffed up, because they can't see what's
Right.
coming like that.
Right.
They didn't know what it was.
Is that num-nums?
Still going strong. Slowing down, though. Definitely slowing down.
I was so excited when I found out that you guys had this baby one. I was like,
Yes.
oh, I get to see it.
Yeah, so you guys are the first people that have done the sloth keeper encounter with Chloe here.
Oh, cool.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
Chloe's encounters have been just her encounters, where they're just 20 minutes at a time. And so we
Right.
won't keep her out for very long this morning. We'll give her a little break, we'll
Right.
switch over to a different sloth, and then we'll get her back out here in a little bit. But so she's still getting worked up to the longer encounters.
Right. It's cool that you can do it as a baby, though. 'Cause you
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
I was just cool to even hold a sloth because I was like, that's like on my bucket list, went way high up. So when I don't even know how I ran across
Yeah,
this.
that's
I think through TikTok, I was scrolling through and it came alive. Feed that they were doing.
Yeah, I think that's his how. And then you start looking
And I'm
into
just
it.
like, wait a minute, what?
We booked this a year ago, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people have to book way out in advance, especially for the sloth encounters. It's really the most popular thing that we've got.
Well, that's good. It brings people in.
And we're big on education too. I mean, doing all the live streams and everything, we understand that live streaming things like this, people just want to get a lot of the information and not just to actually come and
Right.
do the encounters. We're big on education because, it's a big conservation for sloths is a big thing. Because a lot of times down in Costa Rica and Honduras, Guatemala, where they're native to, the natives, the people that live there, don't care whatsoever about the sloth's well-being, and so they just see it as a way to make money. And when people come in, like in Roche in Honduras, it's a really popular place for it to happen. The cruise ship will come and board, and the natives will go out the day before and try to find a young sloth, even if it's a baby,
And
off the
take 'em?
mother's back. They
Really?
will take it. They'll dunk them in a bucket of cleaner to scrub off all that moss and
No
algae and
way.
get rid of all the bugs that are living on them, and then set them up in a little roadside petting zoo and sell sloth encounters. And so it's a big thing that a lot of people are not aware of. A lot of people are really interested in sloths, and so they'll go.
So they'll pay.
Exactly. And a lot of people that come here are like, well, we were going to go down to Honduras and do a sloth encounter there, but then we saw this here and it was a lot closer, so we did this. And I was like, well, thank goodness.
Right.
Didn't go.
This
Let me tell
is
you why.
being done proper.
Yeah. And they're not, people that do those encounters are not aware of, how they've got the
Right.
sloths. They'll advertise it as, this is my pet and I've had it for years.
Right.
Or the mother was injured and so I had to take the baby.
Right, put a good
Some-
story behind
yeah.
it.
And some places will even advertise as, label themselves as sanctuaries.
Mm.
And they may have several sloths, but most likely those sloths have not been taken through, rescue type
Right.
things where they're trying to rehab
And I'm
them.
sure if they pass from neglect, they'll just go get
Yeah,
another one.
yeah.
That's too bad.
And that's what happens a lot of times with those sloth encounters, especially if they're going through an entire cruise ship. They'll use the same sloth for every single person on that cruise ship. And a lot of the times I'll tell people that if you try to have a sloth encounter like this with a wild sloth that had never been held before,
Right.
it would essentially be the difference between holding a house cat and a feral cat. And then some people will tell me, well, a friend of mine or I myself, or I've seen pictures of somebody doing a sloth encounter where they were holding a sloth and it was just sitting there, it wasn't doing
I'm
anything.
scared to death.
And after they're used so many times over and over and over again, sloths, you have to keep in mind, they have very low energy reserves. And so after they've used up all that energy, the first several encounters trying to get away from those people, they can't really do much after that. So they just kind of have to sit.
And it's kind of sad. I'll never do that if we were on a cruise. It's great.
And that's why we're so big on education, is just getting the word out there about it. Because, people that love sloths and they want to, do that.
Their intentions are good, but they don't know.
They
man.
don't, yeah.
It's too bad. And I know I heard when you go on cruises, go really poor country, they'll do anything.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is, I can't really say that I'm blaming people that much, because that's just their way of life. That's how they make money, that's how their dad did it, that's how their dad's dad did it, so that's how they're doing it, just to make money.
Right.
Now, thankfully, the Conservancy Agency has recently, talking just in the past few months, gone in and reinforced more strict rules and regulations against handling the wild sloths, and so they're making it to where they have to get permits and things like that to actually even have the sloths in a facility, a place that calls themselves a sanctuary.
Right.
Will have to get the correct permit and provide evidence that those animals are actually needing to be kept in captivity for whatever reason, and to be able to continue to function.
Because have they ever been on what's that list? Extinction? How
Not
the risk
yet.
of extinction?
Now, the three-toed sloths are closer to being on that list than the two-toed, because of, how many, the region where the three-toed sloths stay most of the time are the regions where they do a lot more of those sloth encounters. So those sloth encounters that you can do with those are the three-toed.
Right.
And those are the really freaky ones that can turn their necks around like 180 degrees
Oh, I don't even know
backwards.
about this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the three-toed and the two-toed sloth skeletons are set up completely different.
Really?
Yeah, so the three-toed sloths, they have 4 extra vertebrae in their cervical spine and 3 extra vertebrae as a tail. And that gives them the ability to completely twist their head 180 degrees backwards, kind of like an owl, to look behind them. The two-toed sloths cannot do that, thankfully, because like I said, it does creep me out.
Right.
But where they lack that in their cervical spine and they don't have a tail, they make up for it in their lumbar spine. And so that gives them the ability to have their hips facing one way and twist their upper body completely 180 degrees
Wow,
backwards.
that's crazy. You might look at that.
So their skeletons are absolutely impressive. Looking at a skeleton, if you were to stumble across the skeleton of a sloth without knowing what animal it was and having the skull attached to it too and all those razor sharp teeth, you would definitely be thinking top of the food chain for sure.
Right.
Something that's maybe with their long arms swinging through the trees,
Right.
swapping things out with those claws as they're going through, when in reality to see how slow they are and how
the
gentle.
complete opposite.
Yeah, it's pretty ironic. I think it kind of makes you second guess some of the dinosaurs if they were actually as
Right.
aggressive as we think that they were,
Right.
or if they were just cute little cuddly things after you add skin and hair to them. Something hanging out there, baby.
A little carrot. Yeah, she's totally just chilling. Yeah, you're precious.
An adult male, if it is in defense of, can lean back onto its tail, orient, deliver blow of both axes, the same femur, or all your ribs in one shot. Their actions grab on like this, lay their tail on
I always say that my personality is like sloth.
Yeah. A lot of people say it's their spirit animals. This is how slow they move and how just a nonchalant attitude they have. Just, and they have the markings that makes them look like they're just smiling all the time.
Yeah.
And they could have just fallen out of a 100-foot tree and still have that smile on their face.
So that's one thing that we read or heard or something that they fall like all the time or
They
something
do.
like that?
They fall extremely often, about once a week on average.
Here too, they'll do that, or?
Not really here, because the biggest enclosure that we have is a 20-foot enclosure.
Okay.
And that's nothing compared to what they would have
Right.
in a while. Of course, that's all that Flash knows, and he stays pretty much in one place all the time and doesn't really move around that much until it's nighttime. So he's memorized every single place in
Right.
his enclosure where to hook onto. So he's never fallen. We have nets spread out in their enclosures
Gotcha.
just for USDA guidelines and everything. We are licensed by the USDA, same accreditations as a zoo has. And so we have to follow all those little nitty gritty rules and stuff, even if they don't really make that much sense. Like, we have to keep water in there for them. Sloths don't really drink water. They get all of the water that they need from the food that they're eating, all the leaves and veggies and things. The babies, they drink a little bit more, but we'll hand, give them the water by hand, or in a little dish. What are you looking at, baby? But once they get older, they really don't drink that much. Zoe, we've seen that in the morning when I come in, her water will be down, and some of her water will be in her food bowl, some of it's on the floor, and I'm like, what is she doing in here? Go back and look at the cameras, and while she's eating, she sticks her claw in her water dish and like swashes it around. Yeah, and so, but she doesn't really drink that much.
Right. Cleaning.
Yeah.
You tired
Oh, yeah,
now?
look at her.
She's finished up now.
Yeah, when they stop, they just stop, don't they?
She says, I've run out.
That's it.
Run out of energy. I'll rest my little fingers here. I always tell people, if you're ever bitten by a sloth, you've done something completely wrong, because you basically have to leave your hand there for them to bite
For
you.
quite a while.
And you would be surprised. I have to tell that thing at the beginning to not put fingers near their face and things, because a lot of people, despite me telling them that their eyesight is extremely poor, they cannot tell what is in front of them, they can't tell the difference between a finger and a sweet potato, people will still give them a hand. Or like, they'll start to reach out. That's what Zoe does a lot of times. She'll be reaching out, trying to get somebody's attention, and they'll give her their hand, and she'll pull their hand in and go to open her mouth open. I'm like, you have to move your hand out of her claw.
That's funny.
She does not know. You've just given her something, and she thinks that that's something now to put in her mouth. They're a lot like toddlers. They do explore a lot with their mouths too.
Right.
Even if they know that it's not food, they'll still mouth on things. Like Zoe, she likes to kind of chew on the armrests and just do things like that. Because that's kind of how their other senses are heightened, because their eyesight's so poor. So their sense of hearing, their sense of smell, their paw pads there on their little hands are really sensitive too, and that's what allows them to know what they're grabbing onto without even really seeing what it is.
Do you have to like clip their nails like you would a parrot or something like that, or not really?
The babies, you don't really clip them because their quicks are fairly long. But when they're babies and they don't climb as much, their little claws tend to be pretty sharp. And once they transition from laying onto a stuffed animal like that to actually sitting on you and having their legs wrapped around you, sometimes when they're clamping down, that can be kind of painful. So sometimes we'll take a little nail file, just kind of file them down a little bit, or a little Dremel, depending on who allows us. Like Dash does not like the Dremel whatsoever. Chloe's done pretty good with it so far, but they just all have their own little personalities and things that they do like and don't like, and things that they don't tolerate, don't put up with. And it's funny to see all the different personalities between all of them, because like I said, the three came from the same breeding facility and were raised by the same man, and had the same. He has his ambassador program down to a T, and he does it the same way every time. And so he raised the exact same, and probably in very similar ways, but they all have very different distinct personalities. Like Dash, he likes to sit down low in your lap where he can look up at you, then also turn and look back behind him to see what's going on behind him. But Zoe, she likes to be up high on your chest, to where she can just put both hands up around your shoulders and snuggle her little head right in beside your neck. And so we'll still have to see how Chloe does and what she likes to do. But I have a feeling that she's going to like to sit up higher too. Because a few times that I've had her kind of sitting upright on me, she already starts to climb up higher than she, higher than Dash ever wanted to go.
It's like most animals. We got two parrots at home, and they're complete opposites. One, don't ever worry about getting bit. Loves attention, loves to be held on you all the time. Pika, our other one, more dominant, more like.
Watch out, because he'll get
he might be real lovable for 10 minutes, and the next second he'll bite you. You know what I mean? Like he's very, you gotta really watch him, you know what I mean? So, but, and then I noticed you have a, what is that? Animal scared the crap out of us yesterday. We were sitting on that,
Oh, the
where the
alpaca.
swan thing is, you can go sit there.
Yeah.
Man,
This
you
one
can't
alpaca
run
come
though.
running like crazy right up to us,
Yeah.
and I heard they
You're
could
like-
spit, and
Yeah.
he'll kind of like open his mouth a little bit. I'm like, are you being nice? You know? And he acts like he wants to be petted, but it's like, I don't know.
That's Cusco. So he's actually
Cusco,
a
that's
llama.
cool.
Yeah,
Oh, a
he's
llama?
The one that has a real big
Yeah,
shaped
yeah,
ears.
yeah.
He was bottle raised, and so
Okay.
his person. He's a very sweet llama.
Is he?
But he tries to
intimidating.
act.
He's intimidating for
Yeah.
sure.
And he'll pin his ears back, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
hear him curl up.
That's
his
Yeah.
spit,
And then he
he's
started
got
walking under the thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
We were like, darn it.
What did we do?
And then I would pet him, and he seemed to be okay, but then he'd like make a move like, I'm like, I can't read you, you know.
Yeah, he likes to act big and tough. But then if you ever, she's bubbling up
Oh.
in the mouth there where she's sleeping. And then if you ever hear him like curl up that spit where he's got it in the back of his mouth, you just put
Yeah.
your hand like that
That's
in
what I was
his face
doing,
and
yeah.
stop him, he swallows it.
Oh, okay.
So I've never actually seen him spit. I've heard about it. When I was young, I worked on a horse farm, and they had just this one llama. They didn't, to be honest with you, Joe Biden, or not Joe Biden, Joe, his name is almost just like Joe Biden, the owner or whatever. And he didn't really take care of it. I mean, he was overgrown, all this stuff. And he would eat with the horses. He kept a bunch of horses out in the pasture, pregnant horses and stuff, because they were race horses and stuff. And they were all aggressive, especially when horses are pregnant, they're real aggressive.
Yeah.
And here I'm 12, you know, carrying 5-gallon buckets of corn, driving on a gator back there, and they're all running along me, snapping at me. Scary as heck, you know. And but this llama was mean, like real mean, you know. So when I see this coming up, I'm like, ugh. But I heard they spit, and this one would spit, you know. But
Yeah, and I think that poor Cusco, I think he's taunted sometimes because, and I had never witnessed it. I had the idea that this was happening down by the where the wagons are at, because he can loop all the way around where he goes back there.
Okay.
He loves to be around people because he was ball
Right.
raised, and so for a long time he always wanted to be with people.
Right.
He still does, even though he's older. He'll go around back there and come right up to the fence. A lot of times the little kids that are back there will go up and then they scare him.
Right.
And they'll like jump at him or
Get
they'll
him
bang
to
on the
react,
fence.
yeah.
And so he'll react then, he'll pin his ears back and go and he'll spit. And then it's just a game for
Right.
the kids. But for him, it's confusing
Right.
because he wants attention, he wants to be loved on. And then he's got somebody running at him and acting like
Right,
that.
right.
So we were down there 2 days ago and trying to work on a little vending machine that was down there. And I witnessed it happening. And I finally went over there and told him, I was like, guys, you're taunting him.
Right.
He wants attention. And then you're going up there and banging on the fence and running
Right.
at him. And then he pins his ears back and comes up and spits. That's not
Right.
nice. See, that's how you get
Right.
mean animals.
Right.
So you just had to explain that to him.
Yeah, you want to be able to interact with them.
Yeah. And so that's why I think that's why he does that now, is where he'll come up and act real big and tough. 'Cause
Right.
He's like, I want attention, but I also
Right.
know
Right.
if you're going to be
I don't
mean.
trust you. Oh man, and they look a lot
We
better
do.
once he comes up to you. Like, all right, you know.
You're like, let's go walk.
And then as we
Then he
walk back down
goes
the
under,
bridge,
it's
he
like-
come running, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's that low spot where you're like, you probably could get over there if you wanted to. It was pretty cool though. We'll probably go visit him tonight again.
Yeah, now that we know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's out.
I'm obsessed with sloths.
Yeah.
Typical babies, eat and sleep, eat and sleep. It's got pretty colors, a lot of different colors.
Yeah.
You'll see the difference in variation here in a minute when I get Dash out. She's super, super dark. So when they're first born, they're all solid one color. Then as they get older, around 9 months, they start to kind of get this salt and pepper look going down on their back. And then by a year, year and a half old, they start to get the whole middle of their back will be really light, and then it'll start to kind of broaden out. The whole back will be really light in color. And that's because when they're first born in the wild, you know, the mother will have all that moss and algae on her back, and so from the rainforest floor looking up, she's pretty much undetectable. But that baby, for things up top looking down, it's undetected because it's a darker color. All of the leaves that are up above them kind of just help to blend in that baby. All the shadows that are casted down on her just help to blend in, rather than if they were a lighter color and then they didn't have any moss and algae on them, they just kind of stick out like a sore thumb. But right out when that hair starts to change is when they'll start to grow that moss and algae on their back, when they'll start to form. Because they have to get rained on a series of times over and over and over and over again. And when they're sitting up like how she is right now, the rainwater will kind of gather down on her belly. But then once they get old enough where they're by themselves and they start to flip over the other way, they start to get rained on. All that rainwater will gather into their back, and over time will form the moss and algae. Because each individual hair of a sloth has a lot of tiny little micro cracks throughout it, and when the rainwater just sits in there, they don't shake like a dog would when they get wet. It just sits there, and so then over time they'll form the algae. And it gives the algae a lot, it stands out a lot better if they're a lighter color there on their back, rather than if they're a real dark chocolatey brown. She is.
Do sloths sleep a lot even when they're not babies, just in general?
They don't sleep as much as people used to think that they did. You know, scientists used to think that they slept upwards to like 20 plus hours a day. They don't actually sleep that much. It's closer, more current research will show it's closer to like 12 to 13 hours, which I could probably sleep that long if my alarm didn't go. And I know that my dog sleeps at least that long during the day. So they are awake a lot during the day, they just choose not to move around. And so even in captivity, they all kind of have their own little hangout spots. And in the middle of the day, they don't really climb around too much unless first thing in the morning when it's, you know, Flash's time to come down, he knows it's ready for breakfast. He'll come down for that. And then Zoe, she has one little hammock over the corner of her room where she'll stay pretty much all day long unless you open up her door to go in there. And as soon as you walk in, she starts immediately climbing over to you, reaching out, trying to get you to pick her up. Because she's an ambassador sloth. And so to become an ambassador sloth, they have to meet 2 requirements before even leaving the breeding facility. They have to genuinely enjoy and actively seek out human interaction. If they don't do one or the other of those, they will not pass the ambassador protocol, and they'll just go to a facility that's more so like a zoo or how we house Flash, where there's not going to be, you know, there's not going to be a whole lot of one-on-one interaction unless they indicate it. And I'm sure that he has some kind of a waiver, just like that we have waivers that we have to sign for these babies, that, you know, prove that they're not going to be handled and things like that as much. And that's how reputable breeders will do it. There's, you know, sloths are not as common as dogs, obviously, so there's not a whole lot of sloth breeders in the United States, but all of the ones that there are all, you know, very strict about how they do things, and you have to have, you know, all of the right licenses and registrations and everything to be able to get them, and for them to even be able to consider giving you one of their babies. For him, for the breeder that we got Zoe from, we had to at least have Flash for 2 years before we even considered getting her, or before he even considered, you know, giving her to us. And so there's no reputable breeder in the United States that's going to just sell one of their babies to a member of the general public. Now you can go online and figure out that in some states, it is legal to own a sloth without any kind of licenses. So some people will go on the internet and find out you can buy a sloth off of the internet, but those have not come from a reputable breeder in the United States. They have come through the illegal animal trade and have been sold out that way.
But like you said, they're not going to be a part of that program, so they can kind of probably wild.
And wild sloths, like I said, they live, first of all, completely different lives, and so the way that they digest their food is completely different than the way that, you know, captive sloths will digest their food, and so that can cause a lot of health issues. And on top of that, the behavioral problems, and so, you know, wild sloths are not going to be all cuddly and cute like this. They're going to be every lapse. They're going to want to be by themselves, and if you approach them, they're going to be hissing and biting. You know, not
And
wanting you to pick
trying
them
to
up.
find a vet that would actually take care of them. It wouldn't be worth all.
You gotta really know what you're doing.
It's like every animal. It's like, you know, I've been born and raised with parrots, so I know all about that and how to take care of them. And sometimes I'll see people that have them, and it's like, you're feeding them seed diet, that's not good, you know, you're doing, you just pick out in your head, that's not right, you know what I mean, and, you know,
Like
they
my
think they're
friend
doing
Lindsay.
good, you know, and it's like,
My friend Lindsay
Yeah.
asked us, she goes, how do you take care of a parrot?
She just wanted to
Just
get
like,
one.
there's this,
Yeah.
like lifting off,
Yeah.
naming off all of it, this, and she goes, oh, okay, that doesn't seem bad. I said, you don't understand.
Yeah.
With your type of kids, you're not,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
and they say within like 3 to 5 years, people don't get rid of them, you know, because that's old. I mean, the ones we got will live 20 plus years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Some
a
will
big
live
commitment.
80 years.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
you gotta deal with the good and the bad, you know. Just like, you know, like I told you, Pika can be mean and bite you, he's, you know, but other time he's not.
Yeah.
You get bit once, like, oh, you can't, you know, you can't just get rid of, they're animals, you know.
There was
You gotta
this
learn to
one
read
time-
them, you know.
There was one time we had them out on their cages playing, and
Yeah.
I go in the kitchen, all of a sudden Pico comes flying at me, bites me right here, and flies off. I'm
Flew
like,
right
what
to
the
her,
heck,
hit her,
do?
and flew back to his cage, like. And we would let them, we don't like to trim them because I like to let them get their exercise, so
Yeah.
we'll let them out on their cage and they'll go preen each other and everything's good. Now lately I've noticed, we'll let them come out and they'll want to start, after a little while, Hooper gets annoyed with Pika picking at him too much, they'll start fighting. So I go break it up with a stick and, you know, because I want them to hurt each other and say, all right, y'all going back, you know,
Yeah.
one at a time. They're like raising kids, I swear, it's crazy, you
Yeah.
know.
And that's the same thing for sloths too. I mean, people don't understand how much of a commitment that they are. Because
Right.
one, their life expectancy, and two, just how extremely sensitive they are to everything. I mean, not just their environment, everything has to be on par, but their diets and, you know, everything in between everything is so sensitive. And they're such routine animals that they have to be kept to their schedule every day.
Right.
And, you know, they have the sloth keeper days are a little bit off. Just because there's 3 hours that we filter through all 4 sloths, but we
Right.
still try to navigate and use the same, you know, tendencies every time we do the sloth keepers, which are, you know, rare occasions. We probably have 2 a month of the sloth keeper, but then all the other encounters, you know, we have daily encounters, and so
Right.
even though, like Dash, he has a specific time in the morning that he's supposed to have his hour of encounter, and then a specific time in the afternoon that he's supposed to have his encounter. And it's the same time every day. Say in the afternoon from 4 to 5, he doesn't have any encounters. I still hold him for at least 30 minutes of that hour to get him on, keep him on his schedule.
Right, right.
Otherwise, he gets thrown off. And you
Yeah.
can tell a difference in his behavior too. In the
Yeah.
afternoons, if I get super busy and I'm not able to hold him at, you know, for his hour through there, because I'm doing other things or something else has come up. In the afternoons on the trip from here back up to the main house, I load them both in the car, and for the most part, if Dash has had a good day where he's, you know, he's had his hour both times, he's good, he'll just sleep the whole car ride. But if he hasn't had his afternoon encounter, or if his day was thrown off for whatever reason, he'll uncover himself. He's like grabbing onto the back of my chair, pulling himself up, trying to see what I'm doing, trying to see if he can climb up there onto me. And he's just super active, and he'll be like that the rest of the night. And so even John and Donna, they can tell in the afternoons, you know, if he's gotten thrown off, because he'll be climbing around a lot more, or
Really?
just be a lot more vocal. When they're babies, they make little noises that sound like if they're really wanting something, like
Right.
if you walk by their basket or something, like Chloe has been doing it more here recently. If you walk by her in the mornings to open up the blinds or something, she'll always start to reach out and do that. And Dash does the same things. He breaks my heart in the evening when I go to put him back into his enclosure, because I set the entire basket into his enclosure, and then he can climb freely if he wants to. But as soon as I set the basket down and I go to close the door, he'll reach back out and try and get me to pick him up. It's like, don't leave me.
Oh, they're so cute.
She has just about passed out.
Yeah.
So I think that, go ahead and put her back up here for a little bit. We'll get Dash out and kind of work with him. See the differences between them. Yeah, she's a messy eater. I'm sure you'll have a whole bunch of her.
Do you want this back in the bowl? Or?
Yeah, just leave it, it's fine.
Who painted all this? It's pretty good.
Her name is right there, T. Barista. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
She was done before I even started.
Oh, okay.
Hey, bud. What are you doing?
Oh,
Are you sleeping?
I didn't know one was in there.
Hey, buddy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, are you sleeping? got one eye dilated and the other one's not. That's when you can tell he has been sleeping good.
Aww.
What one is this?
This is Dash.
Dash,
So Dash is a year old.
okay.
He turned a year old August 5th. Is his birthday. So you can see the difference in coloration
Right.
between the two.
Yeah.
So up here on his head, that's the darkest spot. That's the color that he was all over his body when he first got him. So he's a lot darker than Chloe was. And then after he turned about 8, 9 months old, started to get just a few little white hairs poking through. And now he's pretty much more salt than pepper all over his
Right.
back. And so eventually this middle part will turn all kind of like that lighter silvery color poking through.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I'll twist him around. What he'll do is he's going to sit up high on you like this, or you'll set him down into your lap. You know, so kind of support his weight. And then the other hand, you can use to pet him real slow. They're very unlike babies. They don't have to be restricted in. If you restrict them in, they start to feel kind of, captured. And so with the one hand, you just kind of give them light pets. They have excellent core strength, so he can lean all the way backwards and still pull himself back up. So you don't have to support him like you would a baby. But just put one hand under his booty like that. So he's going to wrap his legs around your waist first. There we go. You can put one hand under his booty. And the other one on his back there. And here is his breakfast too.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
hungry. Yeah. So that's what I want.
Oh, he's a much quicker eater.
Oh yeah. He'll be through with that in like 3 minutes. Yeah. He eats a lot quicker.
This is so cool.
Yeah. Look at the big long old legs wrapped around.
The way they eat.
And this is Dash.
Yes, this is Dash. So we've got Flash, Dash, Zoe, and Chloe. And we'll trade out and get Zoe out here in just a minute.
So this is like a kangaroo that the babies live in their mama's pocket.
Try to get rid of all this rice and everything because the flies are so bad in here. That's always something that you gotta keep up on when you're working with these guys too. They only use the bathroom once a week. And
Really?
so, yeah, about every 7 to 10 days. And so when it does come out, it is putrid. And I spent all morning before you guys came in trying to air it out
Right.
because Zoe went to the bathroom last night.
Oh, man.
And so.
Are they kind of like a schedule? Do you know when they kind of are going to go or not?
It's about every 7 to 10. There for
Okay.
a while, Zoe was right on every 7. And it would be every Friday evening that she would go. And then Saturdays are the busiest day of the week, of course. And I'd come in and there'd be a big pile of puddle for me to clean up.
Right.
And she would do it every time. She was on that schedule for like a month. And then she's off of it. Now she's kind of, sometimes it fluctuates with her. She'll be every 6 to 7 days,
Okay.
which is normal for her.
Right.
And it all kind of depends on the sloths. I mean, Dash, when they're younger, they go a little bit more often. And then Flash, he's 7 years old, but he goes more frequently as well. Usually for him, it's about every 4 days, which is normal for him. So as long as he sticks to that, that's what we like.
Right.
And we kind of consider ourselves to be poopologists because every time they go to the bathroom, we have to inspect it, we have to weigh it, we have to make sure that
No
it's all the
kidding.
right, consistency because of how slow their digestive tract is.
Right.
If anything were to get out of whack, it takes 30 days to digest everything through from start to finish in their system. And so for whatever reason, they had an infrequent bowel movement today. The reason for that did not
It was a month
happen.
ago.
Yeah, it didn't happen last week. It was about 30 days ago.
Wow.
That they had ate something that didn't sit right with them or that, had messed up in their diet. And so we have to keep really good record of that and write down if they didn't eat or if they were ravishly hungry
Right.
or if they only wanted sweet potatoes and they didn't want anything else to do with anything. And, we have to write all that down.
So any little change could mean a medical problem.
Yeah.
Do you have a special vet or something?
Oh yeah, so we have an entire network of specialists that work with the sloths and with all of our animals. We have a vet that's more local, but he has a lot of different connections because he didn't go to school to be a sloth vet. Those are few and far between, but
Right.
he has really good connections with a lot of others, one that's not actually a vet, but he's worked with sloths diets for many years. Then another one that is a sloth vet that works at a zoo with just the sloths basically, and he's in New York. And so, you know, he's just got to have all those good connections and everything with people that know what they're doing, because sloths metabolize everything very differently than any other animal. Everything is so slow with them, slow in ways that you wouldn't even think that an animal could be slow.
Yeah, I would have never guessed it took that long to digest it. That's crazy.
And the way that their system is set up is that they only have a one-way valve that allows food to go into their stomach, but not back out. And so as soon as it goes in, if they eat something that doesn't sit right with them, they're stuck with that, you know, until it comes out the other end.
Wow. Like how his hair flares back.
And they're on the sides where it kind of sticks up like little wings.
Yeah.
Back behind those are his little ears. So they're just covered by little tufts of hair, Interesting. Kind of flare out when he puts his head down.
It'll look like me in a few more years. Really start. Cool looking animal.
So cool.
Oh, Flash is waking up. He's not thinking about coming down. Oh, he's moved.
Is he up there?
Yeah, he's moved over to the other corner now. You can see he's put himself into a pretty comfy spot.
Oh.
Can I step in there and look up at him?
Question for upstairs. Can only like 2 people, like say if him and I were wanting to rent out that room for a week, could we?
I think
Or
you
does
could.
it have to have a minimum of people?
Oh, I think you could. It would be pretty expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I should pay that.
Yeah,
Right.
but.
We were almost gonna do it this time, and we're like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe next time. We want to come back and do some other
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
or maybe next time we can get my mom and dad to come.
Yeah,
and all that, but
yeah. Well,
as soon as I saw a room that you could wake
Yeah,
up with a
have a
sloth, I'm like,
sloth right next to
oh
you.
my.
He has almost devoured that.
Yeah, that's
entire
right.
bowl,
He's
so I'm
hungry.
gonna cut him up some other
You are
things.
hungry.
He's right at the age where we're starting to kind of transition him over from not just so much of that and the leafy greens. Now he's on a few of these little stick veggies of squash and zucchini and sweet potato and stuff like that. We've just got to cut it up a little bit smaller where he can actually get it down. Because while they have big teeth, they're not the best chewers.
You guys can pet them like this. They're very soft.
You guys have to trim down their teeth at all?
As long as we use the hand sanitizer first, you can pet them.
They do, their teeth and their claws will continuously grow throughout their lives, but it dramatically slows down as they get
These
older.
are all our baby kangaroos. Our baby kangaroos.
It's okay to pet him when he's eating? Can I pet his back? Or is,
Yeah, it's fine.
you know, some animals don't like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
People here to do it
He is
today.
in
Oh, he's
so
soft.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like he'd be rough, but he's not.
6:30 in the morning and 6:30 at night. Except on Sunday.
You are licking that clean.
Don't go outside. I'm totally
Goodness.
serious.
Sure is.
I'm wondering, he went to the bathroom last night too.
Oh, so
He
he's
did.
empty out, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what they tend to do right after they go to the bathroom. They are ravenously hungry. And so when we get Zoe out here in a minute, I have to have all of her food ready for her because she will probably be wanting to eat everything inside.
Their body kind of just feeds off that for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, well, they dip down like 1/3 of their entire body weight when they go to the
Wow.
bathroom. So that would be
Wow.
the equivalent of a 200-pound person having a 60-pound bathroom break. So we would definitely need some new plumbing if we.
Right.
Start stuck on your nose.
Yeah, he hates to have his mouth cleaned off too. He's like a little toddler. He can't stand to have his mouth clean, but then as soon as you set him back down into his basket, first thing he does is starts rubbing his nose around.
Right,
trying to
kind
get it
of,
off. Yeah.
Hey, how you got it?
So once he licks all of that clean, you can offer to feed him these. When you offer it to him, just offer him the end, and then after he gets all of it, you can just let it go.
Okay.
I'll have to see if he's in the mood for that. Sometimes he's not, but.
I think it's clean.
I get every little one.
You never let a little
So
drop.
they gotta make sure.
Yeah, I think it's clean.
Yeah, buddy? Want one of these?
almost gotta like kind of put it into his mouth for
There
him.
you go.
Yeah. Is that good, buddy?
Aww. Give me a hug.
So something more specific about sloths is that they will actually digest their food using a bacterial process, not an enzymatic process like we do. So we're born with those enzymes, but the sloths are not born with the bacteria that they'll need to digest their food. And so for the first 3 days of the sloth's life, they're on exclusively just milk from the mother, and the mothers actually, they don't have the ability to store milk. So as the baby is nursing, the mother will produce that drop by drop to the baby. That's something really cool about the moms, and that helps to kind of conserve energy because they don't want to store up a bunch of milk if the baby doesn't make it, or if they, for whatever reason, stop nursing, then they just use up a bunch of energy for no reason. So around day 3 is how quickly the babies will start to then transition over to start eating just a little bit of solid food. And they'll actually get the first few bites of solid food from the mother's mouth. So as the mom is eating, just going. As the mom is eating, some of the saliva that she's producing in her mouth will kind of bubble up in the corners of her mouth. The baby will lick up that and kind of take some little bites out of the leaves that she has in her mouth. And so they'll kind of swap spit. And the bacteria that the mom has in her saliva came from the bacteria that she has in her system, and so that will be transferred over into the baby, and they'll get just a little bit of their mom's bacteria colonies to then start to develop their own. And then in the wild, the mom has a whole bunch of moths that live all over her back that's feeding off of the moss and algae that she has growing back there, and those will transfer over onto the baby, and then the baby will have those moths on them too, even though they don't have any of that moss and algae growing on them just yet. And so they'll stay on there, and then after the baby will go off on its own, it will, every time it goes to the bathroom, they go to the same exact spot every single time. They always go down to the floor to do so, because when they do, those moths will climb down off of them, lay their eggs in the dung pile of the sloth, and crawl back up. And those moths will produce the bacteria that the sloths are using to digest their food. And so they'll constantly, when they're grooming themselves, licking up some of those moths, they'll eat some of that bacteria.
Right.
So that will continuously just keep that bacteria colony up.
Mother Nature's crazy.
Yeah. It's an entire symbiotic relationship that they have with those moths, because the sloths need the moths, and the moths need the sloths in order to survive, because the only place in the entire world that those moths can live is on the back of the sloth. So they have a long scientific name, but most people just call them the sloth moths, because that's the only place they live.
See, I never even knew about that either.
And those moths can't fly like other moths can. They have wings, but they're essentially, they don't really do much. So they really need direct contact to be able to crawl up onto the surface that they're trying to get to. And that's why the sloth has to make that long trek to go all the way to the floor to go to the bathroom. And the only thing that the sloth really does relatively quickly is go to the bathroom, because that's when they're most exposed to any other animal that's just strolling through and sees an easy target to just eat.
Get it done and get back up in the tree.
Did you get both
That's
him
great.
and Did you get both him and I in the picture?
Yeah. No, just the sloth. You want one? Still hungry? No? No?
No. That was no problem. And I never knew that there was a difference in in squash and zucchini, but apparently there is. And
Really?
The smell, they taste a little bit different once you cook it.
Yeah.
But the smell of it raw, I was like, I can't never smell a difference, but they can, because
Really?
there'll be some days where they're gonna get on a kick of just one squash, don't want any zucchini, and they can tell the difference. Yeah, he'll leave that little tongue sticking out like that the whole time. And that's something more specific that Dash does. None of our other sloths do that. But he has always had his tongue sticking out, and every time he sleeps, that tongue sticks out even further. And also, every time he sleeps, he will cover himself up with a towel. And so that's why we keep that towel on top of him.
They'll literally do it on purpose?
Yes. And then sometimes he'll roll a time or two and wrap himself up completely into that towel. So he would not make it for very long if we were to put him into the rainforest, because the first place he'd go is to the floor looking for some kind of a towel to roll up into.
Sticking it out.
Where's
Hi.
that?
What's going on, buddy?
And Dash is our most inquisitive sloth that we have. Every time I do his encounters, I have to sit over here out of the way, and sometimes I'll even sit on my hands like this, depending on the mood that he's in.